just wanted to make this video to help everybody understand the basics of wood. What I'm going to do is start by telling you the difference between soft and hardwood. Many people think that that has to do with the way the wood feels, the density of the wood. It's not. Any sort of conifer tree, that's pine tree, is going to be a softwood. Here we have antique heart pine, and this is Doug fir, and these are both softwoods because they're pine trees. Then every other kind of tree that bears a leaf, a deciduous tree, is going to be a hardwood. And you've got white oak, tulip poplar, maple, walnut, red oak, and so on. So just to be clear, softwoods are pine trees, hardwoods are deciduous trees, leaf-bearing trees. And then moving forward, we want to understand the basics of the way that the grain plays into the board. And so every board has 6 sides. You have 2 faces, which are the wide sides, edges, and the ends. The ends are the end grain, edge grain, and face grain. The tree would have stood like this, everything like that. So when they sell boards, they'll usually sell boards as flat sawn, quarter sawn, live sawn, rift sawn, and it's really easy to tell what they are once you understand what that means. And so to just get straight down to it, it's very easy to understand. A flat sawn board is going to be any board where the growth rings are set at 0 to 30 degrees to the face of the board. That's flat sawn. 0 to 30 degrees. So the growth rings of the tree and their relationship to the face of the board. 0 to 30 for flat sawn. Quarter sawn is going to be anything that is 60 to 90 degrees to the face of the board. It's like that. Where the growth rings are at 60 to 90. That's quarter sawn. Then you have rift sawn, which is 30 to 60. And that's not so common. Usually rift sawn is sold with quarter sawn, and it's just called rift and quartered. It does achieve a slightly different pattern to the face of the board, but its rift sawn is 30 to 60 degrees. Some other things to note about the wood is the growth rings, the dark rings. That's your spring growth ring, and the light is your summer growth ring. And so the tree grows more slowly during this dark ring and is growing fast during the summer during the light ring. And that's the same amongst any of the other types: slow growth, fast growth. And now we'll kind of get into some of these other pieces that I have here. This board is Doug fir. It's very easy to discern the difference between the quarter sawn face, where it's nice straight and the growth rings come up and pierce through that face at about 90 degrees on this particular board, and you turn it over and this edge is flat sawn, and you can see how the growth rings, the way that they come through the board on an angle, because most trees don't grow perfectly straight, but they're sawn straight. And so each one of these darks is the spring growth ring coming through the face of the board like so, and then the lighter is the summer growth ring and how it's coming through that face of the board. And these are called cathedrals oftentimes, and this is the flat sawn side of the board. What I have here is a couple different kinds of wood. One thing that's super common in our stair shop is quarter sawn white oak. And this piece here, it's just the leftover, and you can see how the quarter sawn achieves the straight line effect here. This piece is quarter sawn, has a lot more of the medullary ray showing in it here, these little bits. The medullary ray is the bit of the grain that actually goes through diagonally through the tree. This is white oak. Okay, so people often get confused between white and red oak. The best way to tell is from the end grain pores. I'm trying to see if you all can get a good view of this. In white oak, the pores of the wood are very tightly packed and often look filled up with dust. Red oak is very open pores, and that's why white oak is better for exterior grade. Those pores are literally where the water travels through the tree. And this particular piece of red oak is extremely flat sawn, and you can see that effect, the cathedrals right there. Another easy way to discern the difference between red oak and white oak is the weight. White oak is significantly heavier, and red oak is much lighter, and red oak usually appears to be pink, but when you've worked a lot of white oak, you'll notice sometimes you can get a piece of white oak every now and again that has the slightly pinkish hue to it, and best way for us to discern the difference is from the end grain. Also, red oak usually doesn't show a lot of medullary ray. It will, but not big huge flakes of it. This would be a live sawn board where it contains both some rift and quartered area and also flat sawn. Some other things to note about the board: see this white? That's the sap. That's the outside of the tree. That in our shop we'll reject that. We would cut that out and remove it. The heart of the tree, some people think heart pine is from the heart of the tree. No, this is just long leaf antique pine. You can see that this tree grew very slow because how tight these rings are. And this is a very nice piece of heart pine right here. And it doesn't really grow around. It's the long leaf yellow pine tree. It's what is heart pine. Some people do want the heartwood, but we never want the pith of the tree, which is the very center. That's not usable. So there's some difference between white oak, red oak. Here's some nice walnut. Made some handrail of this earlier today for one of my videos. Walnut is great, works great, glues good. You got your maple. You can see this board's very flat sawn. It's great for paint grade, hard. It's good for staining, everything like that. Got some tulip poplar, which is good. This is our basic paint grade wood that we use in the shop. Some sapele, which is like a cousin of genuine mahogany. It's sold as mahogany. This we use a lot for all of our handrails. You can see it has got that classic ribbon stripe to it. This Doug fir, as I pointed out, it's nice. We use that for some treads. And then some of the things that happen to boards that you want to be aware of when you buy lumber is when it's dried, it can cause flaws. And this board right here is what we would call honeycomb. And this cracking occurred when they dried the board. They basically dried this board too quickly, and all the grain pulled apart as the water was soaked out of it. You can see how bad it is in the end of the board right here. Sometimes it's hard to tell on the rough side. It can get hidden in there by dirt and dust. So it's best to always cut the end and check your board. This board we've rejected. I won't use this board at all. It's not exactly like check cracking. It is some check cracking usually just happens at the very end of the board. Honeycombing goes all the way through the board, all the way, and you can see how it's just all the way in there. When it comes to drying, if you're doing very fine woodworking, for every inch of the board, it's typically left to air dry for 1 year for every inch, and then would be dried at a low temperature and for a long period of time to prevent this from happening. This board was just dried too fast, sucked all the moisture right out of it. I hope that helps you on your journey into woodworking. If you have any questions or comments, please always ask. Thanks so much. Man Hands Woodworking.